Zdrodowski with the Objective Reporter. Representative, thank you for joining us. If you would introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Thank you very much. My name is Daniel Zdrodowski, and I'm running for Circuit Attorney in the city of St. Louis.
Thank you. We'd like to get to know you today. So first, we're just wondering, as you've seen recently, the Black Lives Matter movement has become very vocal after the death of people like George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. They're calling for major changes to the police, even pushing to defund the police entirely. Do you think any changes should be made to law enforcement? And if so, what would they be?
I do not support the defund the police movement in its entirety. I do not support that. However, I do believe that there should be additional outside safeguards to the police officers' unions and the St. Louis City Metropolitan Police Department. I think that there's always going to be some additional issues whenever there's no outside oversight. Now, that may or may not take the form of a civilian oversight committee, but as I say, the devil's in the details, and I would have to see the exact details of any proposed plan before I could say support or not.
All right, thank you. So regarding the McCloskey family of St. Louis who confronted protesters in their private neighborhood with their guns out, St. Louis City seized their rifles as part of a search warrant, but their attorney claims that the family's innocent and they didn't break any laws. In your opinion, what do you think should happen in this situation?
Well, based on your question, you asked what I think should happen. I think that they should be afforded their due process rights. But more generally, I think that it was a waste of money. We have a huge backlog in this city of violent crimes, including assaults and carjackings. And every minute we spend dealing with the McCloskeys, every hour we spend, every staffer we use on these issues is just taking away from clearing out that backlog. I think that there are far better uses of our time and resources as a city than going after them for whatever it is that they may have allegedly done.
All right, thank you. So moving on, there's been a lot of controversy lately surrounding the mayor of St. Louis, Lyda Kruzan, who read the names and addresses of protesters, of citizens that wanted to defund the police in a press conference. What is your opinion regarding this situation, and do you think it should call for a resignation, or how much action do you think should be taken against her?
I think resignation is a terribly harsh remedy for disagreement with a political figure. I think that perhaps she did not act with malice. I think that perhaps she did not act with intention of harm, but it was maybe not the most thoroughly thought out action on her part. As opposed to resignation, I think that that's more of a question to let the voters of St. Louis decide at the polls.
All right. And regarding some of your other policies, you've said in the past that you're against the death penalty. Can you elaborate a little more on why you feel this way?
It's twofold. First, death penalty cases are not nearly as simple as most of the public thinks that they are. They involve a simply enormous amount of constitutional safeguards that make them drag out for years and years and years. Specialized attorneys need to be brought in that cost a lot of money. There's almost limitless appeals, and everybody knows that on death penalty cases, they usually are mostly exhausted. It's really just a huge waste of, I won't say waste per se, but it's a huge drain on the resources of the state just to execute one person. Whereas sentencing somebody to life imprisonment is often substantially cheaper and provides quicker resolution to the victims and their family. Secondly, I believe in the limited role of government, and as an aside, I do not believe that it's in the purview and power of the state to execute individuals. I think that life without parole is a terribly harsh remedy. Prisons are terrible. The hopelessness of being getting out, I think that is a sufficient punishment without consuming the same resources that it would take to convict and bring justice for 7 other similar cases. And that is actually a statistic that on average it takes about 7 times longer just to sentence somebody to death as it does to life without parole.
All right. And I just wanted to ask one more question about the elephant in the room, which is COVID-19. So St. Louis has reached new single-day records this past week of corona cases. So how well do you think the leaders of Missouri and specifically St. Louis County and city have handled the pandemic so far?
I think that one of the largest problems with the response is that it's been very disconnected. There's been very little communication, in my opinion, between the different branches of local, state, and federal government. I think that everyone's trying to do their best, but there's very little cooperation and coordination. And so I think that of all times, this is the time for people of different political parties and different socioeconomic backgrounds to come together and try and find a workable resolution to this crisis that we're going through.
All right. Thank you. I think that's all the questions we have. Thank you for joining us today, and I wish you good luck on your election campaign.
Thank you very much.